Most engineers approach AI context windows the same way they approach working memory in a computer. Use it, then flush it. But this habit is silently draining productivity at scale. Every conversation you discard is potentially a documented decision, a tested hypothesis, or a hard-won lesson that simply evaporates. The cost isn't obvious in the moment, but it compounds brutally over months. Think about the last major technical decision you made. You probably had a detailed reason, a benchmark that disappointed, a trade-off you weighed carefully, a failure in production that shaped your instincts. Where does that reasoning actually live right now? For most engineers, the honest answer is, in their head, in a Slack thread nobody will search, or nowhere at all. That's not a personal failing. It's a systemic gap that entire organizations quietly suffer from. We tend to measure AI productivity by what gets shipped. Code written, pipelines built, features delivered. But there's an entirely different class of output that almost nobody is deliberately creating. Structured decision records. Why you chose a specific embedding model. Why a chunking strategy failed in your particular use case despite looking great on paper. Why a vector store that won every benchmark collapsed under your production workload. These records are extraordinarily valuable, and AI can help you build them systematically if you decide they matter. The specific reframe that changes everything is the question you ask after a project ends. Instead of prompting an LLM to summarize what you built, ask it to help you document what you learned, what you got wrong, what you would change, and critically, why. This distinction sounds subtle but produces completely different output. A summary describes an artifact. A debrief captures the reasoning process that produced it, which is the actually transferable knowledge. Then store that output somewhere you will genuinely find it later. Here's a concrete example of what this costs in practice. A RAG retrieval strategy experiment runs, produces real insights, and gets documented nowhere. 6 months later, a nearly identical architectural decision comes up on a different project. The engineer starts from scratch, runs similar tests, reaches similar conclusions, and wastes similar time. That is not a minor inefficiency. It is a complete loss of the original investment, paid twice. Multiply this across a team or a career, and the number becomes staggering. Institutional memory has historically been the advantage of large organizations with long-tenured teams. But AI fundamentally changes the economics of this. A single engineer working alone can now externalize, structure, and retrieve their own decision history with a discipline that used to require entire knowledge management systems. The engineers who are becoming dramatically more effective over time are not the ones with access to the fanciest models. They are the ones who treat their own accumulated reasoning as something worth deliberately maintaining and building upon. AI gives you an extraordinarily fast way to structure and externalize complex reasoning. What it cannot do is make you decide that reasoning is worth capturing. That decision, to treat your own thinking as a durable asset rather than a disposable byproduct, is entirely human and entirely prior to any tool choice. Most people never make that decision explicitly. They reach for AI to move faster, not to learn more deeply, and so they keep arriving at the same problems with the same blank starting point. The practical change is almost embarrassingly simple. At the end of your next significant project or experiment, spend 30 minutes with an LLM asking the debrief questions. What did you learn? What failed? What would you change and why? Save that output somewhere searchable. Do it again after the next project. The individual sessions feel small. The 6-month and 2-year compounding effect is profound. The engineers who build this habit are not just working smarter in the moment, they are constructing a permanent structural advantage over those who keep starting from zero.